Hey everyone. This week I wanted to inject a little joy and fun and lightness into your worlds. And Angela Foster is all of those things. I know January, well, for me anyway, can feel a little heavy. There's something about the first month of a year that feels big, and it can feel a little hard, and there's lots of unsurety. And so I thought this would be a really nice way to just give to yourself. In this episode, we talk about why it's important to take care of yourself. And we talk about it through the lens of fashion, which is really fun. And the underlying principle of that is you are worth your own care and love. In whatever way you choose to do that, it might be through fashion, it might be through being in nature, it might be through whatever it is. Just make sure that you are finding space to give love and care to yourself because you are worth it, and that you're finding moments of joy, that you're finding moments of fun, because we are living in challenging times, and the way to get through that is to find sparks of creativity, curiosity, and community. So I hope you enjoy Angela Foster. Wondering what the F has happened to your body and your life? You're in the right place, my friend. Welcome to season 3 of Transforming 45, where we dive into the incredible stories of how brilliant humans are navigating the midlife squeeze with courage, passion, and a healthy dose of humor. Don't miss out on any of our heart-led episodes. Hit the subscribe button, leave a 5-star review, and if you're inspired, share an episode you love with a friend. It means more to me than I can express that you're choosing to spend time here and sharing our message of midlife revolution. So let's get into it. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Transforming 45. This week, I am so excited to welcome Angela to the show. It is Angela Foster. I am so glad to have you here today. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, you'll see I'm a little more shined up than I usually am. For those of you who are listening, know that I'm a little more shined up than I usually am, because we are talking about all things fashion today, but fashion at a deeper level. So if you think like, oh, fashion, maybe this episode isn't for me, trust me, it absolutely is. So with over 2 decades of executive experience in the fashion and beauty industry, Angela Foster specializes in empowering high-achieving petite women to exude confidence by curating a wardrobe tailored to their unique needs. Angela's clients consistently show up self-assured, whether it's during keynote presentations, high-stakes board meetings, or daily life, all thanks to a meticulously curated wardrobe that works with their short girl status, accents their body shape, and reflects their personal style. Angela's expertise has been featured in Real Simple, Best Life, inside of leadership coaching programs, and on podcasts, including the Wingnut Social and Liz on Biz. Whether it is DIY or personalized style coaching, Angela makes sure her clients never again find themselves paralyzed by the dreaded, I have nothing to wear dilemma. That dilemma is so real, especially during this midlife transformation. So, Angela, I'm so glad you're here today. We have so much to talk about.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me. I have been looking forward to this conversation for weeks now.
Me too. Yeah, it's gonna be great. Okay, so let's start right at the beginning. So, Angela, who are you and how did life introduce you to this version?
So I had a great job, loved it. Probably would still be there today. Had a girlfriend who was also a coworker. She had just had her second baby and her husband had just asked for a divorce. And we were out of town at a national sales meeting. We were having drinks after a really long day. And she goes, I just don't even know who I am anymore. I don't recognize my body. Nothing fits. I don't feel like myself. And then just like all the emotional, but then also just the visual mind chatter of that. And she goes, and you always make it look so easy. Would you be willing to help me? And I was like, 100,000%. Absolutely. So that's how it started. We, like I would send her things. I'd be like, this is going to look amazing on you, blah, blah, blah. And it was really taking it away from her focus from my body has changed and my old clothes don't fit anymore to let's just really celebrate the body that you have right now. And after working with tons and tons and tons of women, that's really whether it's a baby or whether it's menopause or whether it's like a COVID-15, whatever it is, it's all about the body that you have right now. Because as women, our bodies are going to change. So once we know how to deal with that when it comes to clothes, because we can't run around naked, like we have to. Unfortunately, eating and getting dressed is something we have to do every day, right?
Yeah,
But
true.
once you have that knowledge of how to deal and how to dress with the body that you have right now, it just takes so much pressure and stress and like ugly mind chatter away from the body that we have. So does
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. There's so many things I want to dig into with that, but I
Yeah.
also want to get into, and what is it in you that makes you so one good at what you do and passionate about it? Like, what are the underlying pieces that make this your calling in this world?
Right. So after I'd worked with, and I was still working full time, so I'd probably, I don't know, worked with maybe 5, 10 women. All of a sudden, I walked out of a coaching session and I was like, that is the most amazing thing ever. To see a woman's confidence, and the women I work with, they're smart and innovative and hardworking. And I mean, from my perspective, they do it all and they make it look so easy. And to all of a sudden see their confidence in how they look and how they feel and how they show up, it is the most gratifying. I'm so privileged to get to witness it. I'm so flattered that they invited me on the journey with them. It is fills my bucket like nothing else possibly could. Seeing that the difference that the confidence makes in how they feel and how they show up and everything, it's just the most beautiful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you were when did you know you were a creative that expressed in this way?
So I've always loved clothes. I've always really appreciated the effect it has on us. I mean, you think about like when you have your A outfit on and you walk into that presentation and you're like, dude, I'm going to kill it. Like, this is going to be awesome. So I've always really appreciated that. I think, though, that we all go through those deals. I mean, you think like puberty and your body's all over the place. And then you think, just like all of that. I think it was when I was like, you know what? Nobody ever teaches us how to get dressed. Like, no one ever says, these are the shapes, Lisa, that look great on you. These are the ones that you should probably stay away from because it's going to be more of a struggle. I think when I put it together that style is not this, like, I don't know, like artistic kind of moment. Do you know what I mean? There's a formula for it, just like there's a formula for everything else. And if we all just knew that formula, it would take away all it's my body's fault. It's like my hips are too big. That's why getting dressed is tough. Well, but once you understand the formula, then there's no mystery behind it. Then it's just like, I'm going to buy a new, I'm going to buy a new bed for the bedroom. Do you know what I mean? And then it's just like, this bed fits, this bed doesn't fit. Like there's no emotion behind it. It's just what works in the, I don't know where the bedroom I work with a lot of interior decorators. That's how I'm going to blame. I don't know where the bed came from. Like, I don't know where that analogy came from. I'm going to have to work on that.
But those things are all interconnected, right? Like I always see fashion and design, it's what we create, it's the world we create around us, right? That supports our well-being. Because when we have spaces around us that feel good, so I think it's really important to approach it from that way because I know it can feel inaccessible to people who are like, well, I don't have the resources to just go out and do all of those things. And when you approach it from that place of, but what is it that feels good? Sometimes it's as simple as just getting some flowers from the grocery store, filling your space, and just having that moment of beauty. Because I feel like as humans, we often deny this part of ourselves and we make it frivolous or surface. But the truth is, we flourish in beauty, right? Like this world was meant to be beautiful and for us to enjoy that. And so I totally see how you would make that connection. Yeah.
Good, good. I'm glad. But that's, you know what, that is such, that's, I love how you said that. It's so true. The littlest things and how they make us feel. I love the flower analogy because I love flowers. And yes, when I have fresh flowers, my house feels better. I like being here more and all of that. 100%.
Uh-huh.
Yep. I love
Yeah.
that.
It's that reminder that we're meant to actually care for these bodies that we're in.
Mhm, mhm.
Right? Like
Yep.
yeah, I often find these conversations are tricky because there's so much narrative around like, oh, well, none of that really matters and it's just what's inside. However, when we express, right, like this is how we express what's on the inside. That's how we do that. That's how we
Yes.
find our voice.
Yes, absolutely. That's so much goodness there. Absolutely. And I know, and people are, I mean, I think the first nasty, and this was probably 5, 6 years ago when I first started, and somebody left me a nasty comment on Facebook. Oh, does anybody really care about this? This is all frivolous or whatever word it was. And I was like, what? I mean, it was my first nasty comment. So I was like, Gadzooks, Batman. I mean, like rocked me for weeks. I got to think, I mean, so then of course I'm trying to like, okay, well, take the emotion out of it, take me out of it, like whatever, like my personal feelings on it. And that's when I started talking about the 7-Eleven rule. Strangers who are meeting you for the first time make 11 judgments about how smart, like, is she worth that much money? Is she capable? Is she all of that in 7 seconds. No offense. It doesn't matter if you're the most brilliant woman on the planet. There is nothing that you can say in 7 seconds that's going to get your sheer brilliance across to a stranger before they've already decided. So, yeah, call it what you want, but 7 seconds is not a lot. Like, I don't even know if I could get out, hi, my name is.
Yeah, no, probably not. And I think that connects to something that is like that I am passionate about is and that is that we are sensory beings, right? Like we when we go out and we interact in the world, it is everything that we can see, touch, smell, taste, hear. Those are the ways we pick up information. And by saying that one of them is not worthwhile, we're negating that. And as humans, our sight is a huge part of how we evaluate in the world around us. So yeah, that's I hadn't heard that 7-Eleven rule before. It's a little bit terrifying.
It can be, right? It can be.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
I also think one of the many great things about getting older and like being at this point is, yes, I mean, we're no longer like most of us aren't in that search for a mate. So we're not dressing to attract the opposite sex or or whoever your ideal person. Then it really is about you. And how do your clothes, how do your wardrobe, how does your closet make you feel? And that's where the power comes in.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's such an important point, and that is one of the things that is so liberating about this time.
Mm.
And it also can be a little bit tricky to try to navigate it by yourself, especially if you have spent decades in service of other people and not listening to yourself, not, when you disconnect from everything that makes you who you are, suddenly you find yourself in this space where it's time now, right? It's time to start giving back to yourself and figuring out who you are now. So, what's your process when you work with women who are in that?
Right? So true. And that's probably one of the most fun things about working with the clients that I have is because they're at that spot. A couple of things. Number one, they know who they are. So when I ask them about like where is your closet at right now? Like if you had to rate it on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being I walk in, nothing fits, I don't like anything, I'm not excited to get dressed in the morning, and 10 being I could walk in blindfolded, grab anything, put it on and know it looks great. Like where are you in that whole range? Okay, so our goal is to get you as close to 10 as humanly possible. One of the things we have to do is really know who we are and how does that translate to our personal style. So is it I'm super active, heels and hose and dresses are never going to be my jam, like just not. That's totally cool. So now we know what we're headed towards. But the women that I work with, they know who they are, and they're not like they don't feel obligated to take part of every trend. They're okay walking away from things that once they know why they don't work, they're like, "Poof, that's okay. I don't need to wear wide leg pants. It's going to make me look like, whatever, 3 of me." So that's cool. So that's what's so fun about working with like the women that I do is because they know who they are and they're confident in who they are. They just want their clothes to represent that to the rest of the world. So it really all starts with I have a 5-step process. The very first one is understanding your body shape. And because once you understand the body shape you have now, 5 years from now, when it changes, you'll know how to tweak and make adjustments and all of that. And that's where you really feel empowered, right? So we talk a lot about body shape. And one of the most important things, and if your listeners could have one takeaway, well, I might make 2 takeaways, but the first one is when we're talking about your body shape, you are not a fruit. You're not an apple or a pear or anything like that. Like that's not how we talk about our bodies. And it's the reason why I feel so like imperative, like we're also not circles or squares or rectangles or anything like that, is because when we put ourselves in that I'm an apple box, just for an example, then it becomes a deal of I'm an apple and my shoulders are too broad and my bust is too big and then my hips are too small. It's like this is what I am. And these are all the reasons why it's not good. It's like I should try to fix it, blah, blah, like all of that. And it's just, you can't, and I don't think anybody could, women, men, anybody could walk into their closet every morning and look at their clothes and think, well, I'd love to wear that, but my thighs are too big or that shows up too much bust or whatever. And then leave the house and be like, I feel amazing. Let's go conquer the universe. Like it's just, so we really we focus on what is your favorite feature. So, for example, Lisa, it could be, I love my legs. Like my legs are amazing. Or my bum, or it might have a little itty bitty waist. That is my favorite feature. So we really, once we understand your body shape, then the very first thing we do is how are we going to accentuate the heck out of your very favorite feature? What does that look like? How does that work with your lifestyle and all of that? That's the first thing that we do. And then we work on the other things. Like if there's an area that you're not crazy about, you don't want to wear sleeveless tops, you're not crazy about your upper arm, whatever. Like we'll talk about that. But that's not the first thing that we go after.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I love that because it's coming from asset stance, right? Instead of like you said, if you are starting your day from a place of self-judgment and deficit of thinking this thing about me isn't good enough for whatever it is that I want to wear and how I want to show myself out in the world, then that is energy expensive, right? Because you've already started from a deficit and then you walk out into the world, and how being in a deficit place yourself show like that translates out into the world and can make all of the ways that you interact with other people that much more challenging.
That was beautifully said. I love that.
Thank you. Because I think about what I used to when I was I've probably talked about this on the show before, but when I was an educator and on days when I was doing professional development and I knew that I was going to have an audience that was tricky. And I'm thinking about this in terms of your work with petite women as well, because I am tall. So I'm 5'10". And when I was going to work with groups that I knew would be tricky, I would also put on a pair of heels. So I would be like 6 feet, maybe a little bit over 6 feet. And I can fully admit now, I did it really intentionally to be a very like powerful source in the room of you are not going to fuck with me in this moment.
Yes. Yes. It's actually, and I don't know if you're aware, but it's called height equity. And petites talk about it a lot when it comes to, do we always have to wear heels and blah, blah, blah. Of course not. There's no rules. Like, you can do whatever you want. On the flip side, to your point, heels oftentimes give us a very powerful inner feeling when we're walking into high stakes situations, to your point, when you know you're going to have a tough crowd, all of that. So there is a level of just subconscious empowerment that they give us. So
Uh,
no, you don't always have to, but yes, it's a good tool to have in your toolbox if you're in situations like that.
yeah, absolutely. And so when you're thinking about like from the petite aspect of it, because it is not my lived reality, right? Like I am almost always the tallest woman in the room, which has
Of course.
its own things.
Yes.
But I would notice that, especially when women who were like significantly smaller than me would be in my space. For me, it made me feel like my sister-in-law. I feel like could just put her in my pocket.
I hope in a good way.
Oh, I love her. She's the greatest. But it is that, like, for me, highlights like just how large my size is. And then it does create, what's the word? It creates power imbalances.
Mhm. Mhm. Yep.
Yeah.
No, it absolutely can. One of the great things about so much being virtual now is that so many people, they have no idea. If you hadn't told me that you were 5'10", I would think I think everybody's my height. So I would have been like, yeah, Lisa's as tall as I am. So that's one of the things. And that can be good and bad, right? Because then all of a sudden you meet somebody who you've like been with virtually for a year or whatever, and you're like, oh my God, she's really small. And it can create, especially depending upon who it is, it can create that, oh, isn't she cute? Isn't she that thing? Which a lot of petite women have like feelings about that. She's so cute. She's so, actually, I'm 50 and I'm an adult woman, and I stopped being cute when I was, 15 or whatever,
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. You put that into words much better than you articulated that much better than I was trying to get to, because it is that initial sense of like you are smaller, so that makes you cute and maybe have less power.
Mhm.
So which is not the truth, right?
Right. Of course
We
not.
need to be appreciating humans for the entirety of their identity and their being. So how do you help women stand into that power so that they can hold the space that they are meant to hold?
Yes, absolutely. I love this. So the first thing is confidence makes you taller. Do you know what I mean? Not
Yeah.
physically, obviously, but your power, it gets bigger, right? So feeling confident in what you're wearing in those situations is so incredibly important. It doesn't matter what article that you read in a magazine that said petite should never do this, or petite should always do this, or like Angela, your style coach, said, oh my gosh, this looks amazing. Like, it doesn't matter. It matters about how you feel in that outfit, right? Because that confidence, and we've all seen it. We've all seen women who are brimming over with confidence, like march into a room and take control. And then we've seen the opposite also, where you feel like they're trying to shrink in. And it really has very little to do with what they have on and all about how they feel about what they have on. That's the most important thing, is being able to uncover what makes that woman feel confident and then doing it over and over and over again. Mentioned the A outfit. I talk to my clients, especially new ones, about this a lot. Tell me what your very favorite outfit is. If I said, you're going to meet the president of XYZ, like your ideal client that you would dream of like signing them. When you like picture that, what would you wear to that meeting or to that opportunity, whatever? What does that look like? You have it in your closet right now. Tell me about it. Why does that make you feel powerful? Why does that make you feel confident? Why is that the one that you always go to? Okay, great. Then why don't we do that every day? Like, why don't we recreate that outfit so that you have something similar, not this, but similar
Yeah.
every single day? Like, don't you want to feel amazing every single day instead of just a random Wednesday? So,
Yeah. It's a really good point. It kind of gets to the scarcity idea of there's not enough confidence or there's not enough whatever it is for me to feel like this every day. And so I save it up for this one day where I have this one outfit where I can go in. And it's so true. It really changes our energetic vibration when we can accept, like, no, I get to feel great every day if I want to, if I so choose, right?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And that's what I want for everyone, right? I mean, if just to think what we could accomplish if we really showed up every single day being like, dude, I've got this. I don't care what the world throws at me. I don't care what I'm like, I've got this. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And it can also, so in this midlife phase in
mhm.
particular, one of the things I am finding is that, and I will admit, like, I love clothes, I love fashion. My mom used to tell the story of how before I could walk, she would have to carry me to my closet to pick out my clothes, and I would not put on whatever was chosen for me. So people who say that it's not innate also, like, it
Right.
my experience begs to differ, and I'm sure my mom would say the same.
I love that.
But it gives you an opportunity to play a little bit. I went some of my students who had been in my last grade 6 class were graduating from grade 8. And so I went and I hadn't been in a school in almost 2 years, which was, unusual for me. And so I went and I put on one of my former dresses that I loved when I was an educator and it used to make me feel super confident. And I was like, okay, I'm going to put this on. I'm going to go to this graduation. And I put it on and I was like, this doesn't fit me anymore. And it wasn't that it didn't fit my body,
That's what I was going to.
it was that it didn't feel like who I had become. And I was like, well, I'm in it now. I'm just going to go. It also was part of it was part of my identity of who I was at that time. And so I was seeing people who knew me in that way. And I just thought will just be easier all around if I just show up as the person that they knew. But I felt the whole time like I'm playing an old version of myself. I Yeah, I am playing right now in this moment. I'm playing a part, and it was a really actually healing experience for me to be able to realize how much I had grown and changed in that time, and that was the moment where I was able to like close the chapter, be like, no, this is for real. Like this is not my truth anymore. And I came home and I started a Pinterest board called New Look. And I just was like, how do I want to show all of this evolution that I have experienced now on the outside so that when I go out into spaces, I don't feel like I'm playing the role of the woman I used to be.
I love that so much. Yes. I was wondering when you said it didn't fit me, I was like, ooh, I wonder if it doesn't fit the woman that you are today. I love
That's
that.
right.
And
Yeah,
it brings up such a good point, right? Like we talk about, oh, we have a baby and we gain weight and then we lose it or lose part of it or whatever. Then we go through menopause and all this wacky stuff happens and blah, 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 and all that. And so we talk about dressing for those changes, but that's such a good point. Really, there's a lot of other changes that happen, right? You get a promotion, you start your own business, you branch out and start speaking or you write a book and like all of those changes that we don't necessarily think, oh, well, that definitely requires a wardrobe upgrade or whatever. Interesting. I love that.
yeah, yeah. And that's what I think is it's one of the sort of tenets in my world of like finding the magic in menopause, finding the magic in midlife is that that's the magic. The magic is when you get to step back from all the roles you've been playing and really turn and look at yourself and say, like, who am I now? And how do I want to show that to the world? And part of it may be fashion, part of it may be how your style and how you're expressing it. Part of it might be the like who you choose to have in your world,
Yeah.
right? What things are you choosing to engage in? It's it is all of and it actually I think it is all of those things that makes up style. It's not just the choices you're making about what goes on your body. It's deeper than that.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Was so much goodness. Yes. And you know what it made me think when you were like in the middle of that, I thought, you know, it's kind of sad actually that you don't get to go through menopause sooner, earlier in your life. Like if I, do you know what I mean? Like when you're talking, I was like, you know what? If I felt this like comfortable in my own skin when I was 20 or 25 or, heck, 40, where I
Yeah.
like mentally, I mean, it really is almost sad that like our daughters can't feel the way we feel now, because I think it would make so many things like kindness to each other and acceptance of all of that so much better in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that actually is some of the work that we are doing by living our midlives out loud, by like saying the things that are hard, by saying the things that are true. And when we show up that way for the generations that are coming behind us, it's an act of leadership, right? It is that of saying, you don't have to wait until my age to do this. Yeah. Yeah.
And you think about, and I talk about this with my clients all the time, but you think about, and I don't know if you remember, and I'm going to get the year wrong, but it was probably like 2011, maybe 20, I don't know, 2012. Anyways, Sandra Bullock. Do you guys get People magazine?
Yes. Yeah, we
Okay.
do.
I wasn't sure how like international it was. But they always do that issue every year, like the most beautiful women, the most beautiful men, whatever, the most beautiful people. And Sandra Bullock was on the cover. Do you remember that?
Don't. But please go on.
Okay. Look amazing. Absolutely amazing. Just as like I've never seen her not look amazing, but she just looked happy and fresh and really one of the 50 most beautiful people in the world. Anyways, at the time, she was 50 years old. And I think that she was the oldest woman who'd ever been on the cover or something ridiculous like that. But you think about it and you think about, okay, so that was whatever, 10 years ago, because I think she's 60 something now. But you think about it and you're like, 50 looks so different for us than it
Yes.
did. Like when I was growing up and my mom turned 50, I was like, oh my gosh, you might as well just like give up, like kick it. And now we look at 50 and the most beautiful woman in the world is 50 and she's on the cover of a magazine. Like there is so much. We're so fortunate and blessed to live in this specific time. I mean, it's just,
Yeah, it is starting to feel like a bit of a revolution. Like when I started in the menopause world a year ago, there was like it sort of felt like there was a bubbling. And then now, and part of it also might be because I live in this world, so all of my content, I do have to remind myself of that too. It's like, but this week the Drew Barrymore show was talking about menopause. Maya and Bialik's podcast was talking about menopause. Like it is becoming front and center, which is incredible, right? That we have gotten to this space where women who have been ignored at this phase in life are demanding space. Like I was going to say at first being given space, but I was like, no, no, no. This is because women of our age and stage are demanding space and saying, I am not done. I don't know who you think that you're dealing with, but we are not done here. We are only just beginning.
yes, yes, so true. And I was thinking, and I don't know if you've seen it, you probably have because you're like such an expert in this. But when Naomi Watts had that roundtable discussion with like all of these women, and it was so funny because I was like, is she? I mean, like, I don't know how old anybody is. Like, I don't pay that much attention, but
Yeah.
I was like, she's going through menopause. She said, I had no idea, but it was such a great conversation, I thought, and just so candid and real. And
Yes.
I feel like the more it brings that, like, you can be candid, you can be real. It doesn't, all of that, it does nothing but good things for all of us
Yeah,
and those to come. So, yes.
absolutely. And I wonder with your like knowledge base in style, and because this is something that actually really fascinates me, is that the difference in the way we look and present ourselves from one generation to the next has changed significantly. And I'm like, how and why did that happen? And I'm wondering if you have any insights in that.
Isn't it so true, right?
Yeah.
Think about Betsy Johnson and how, I mean, she's 80 something and she's doing cartwheels going down the runway. I think, and then then there's, other women but she's one of my favorites. Love everything that she does and is. And I think about like, and when we grew up with that, seeing that, and all of a sudden it just like subconsciously gives us permission to really be authentic as to who we are. I know when I first started coaching, I heard a lot of, I want to make sure I look age appropriate. And I'm like, I don't even know what that means. Like, what does age appropriate mean to you? And I love to say that, but then to be like honest about it, there is a thing because I don't have the body that I had when I was 17. Like, I'm not going to wear the things that I wore at 17, not because I can't or whatever. It's just, if I'm going to say I'm going to flatter my favorite feature is not the same as it was at 17,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So my clothes are obviously going to evolve just because I'm going to focus on what I love most about my body today versus where it was 50 years ago. And I think that when you see a woman and you're tempted to judge because you don't think she's dressed age appropriate or situationally appropriate or all of that, I think that's what it really means is that, you know what? Her legs might have been amazing when she was 15, but she's still dressing like that's her best feature. And maybe it's not anymore. Maybe it's her arms or her bust or something like that. And making those tweaks would probably make her feel a lot more confident than still, dressing for a time that's no longer around. So
Right. Yeah. Because what you're seeing is the lack of confidence, actually. Right.
it feels like
When
she's trying,
you're,
like really trying
uh
versus being comfortable
yeah.
in who she is.
Yeah. And it's when we have those moments, because like when we're being honest, everybody has that, like you see somebody and you have that like, ooh. And what I think would really change the way we interact with people is if when we have that feeling, we recognize like, oh, I am seeing and feeling something that is uncomfortable in that person. And so I want to approach this from like curiosity and empathy rather than from judgment, because that's not going to get any of us anywhere. Right.
And it's just going to make the situation worse because she's going to know
Absolutely.
that you're judging her. She's going to pick up on it and feel it and all of that. And now we have just undone what we say we're trying to do, which is build everybody up and make everybody feel at home and where they're at. So yes, I love that.
Yeah.
That was very
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think we also, especially as we get older, I know I do this with music. Like when I am feeling the need for some like deep soul level comfort, I go back to music from my like mid-teen years because that's when I felt most embodied. It's when I felt most grounded. It's when I felt most like myself, when I was having like all of these really pivotal life experiences. And so I think that that can happen as well with style, right? That when we are feeling unsure of something in our current life, we reach for, well, when did I feel good and what did feel comfortable? And we hold on to that, even if we have actually outgrown it.
yes. Yes. And it's part of the process that I go through with clients is the whole closet purging thing. And it's always surprising what they hold on to, what they have an emotional connection to. It's not always what you think it is. It's not always the wedding dress or the dress that they wore to the first, it's not, in fact, it's usually not that stuff, right? But those skinny jeans that whatever, or, the things that they're like reluctant to let go of. And so don't let go of it. It's totally fine. It doesn't need to be taking up space in your primary closet today. Hold on to it. That's amazing. If you love it and you want to look back on it, that's fine. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we all need those moments of like reconnection with something that felt good when we're in a moment where maybe our current world doesn't feel so good. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So at the beginning of our conversation, you talked about the formula
Yes.
of what it is that looks good on. So can you give us an example of what one formula would be that works well.
Yes, absolutely. So everybody's different. And I get this question a lot. And I wish there was like one item that we could all own and all look amazing in. That would, of course, I probably wouldn't have a job, but so let me think about that before I wish too hard for it. But really, okay. So we go through and we talk about like nobody ever teaches us how to shop, right? And the thing about, I don't want any tall listeners or normal size women listeners to feel left out in this whole thing. It's not, the steps aren't just for short girls. I think where we get into a problem is short girls have less vertical real estate. So mistakes in proportion and in volume and that type of thing show up bigger on us than they would on somebody who's taller. So we just have to be a little bit more sensitive to that whole thing. But once we focus on our favorite feature, so what is that and how are we going to accentuate it? And if it's your waist, then maybe it's high-waisted pants or belts or paper bag shorts or whatever. So however, we want to figure out a couple of ways that you can consistently accentuate your favorite feature. Then we have to say, okay, listen, really, it's all about creating the illusion of balance. That's it. That's all it is. So that's why it's okay not to call ourselves apples or pears or bananas or whatever. Because really what we're doing is we're just looking at our body and saying, okay, I have like delicate shoulders and a perky bust and a very voluptuous bum. So what that means then is I get to add and I get to look at all of the fun styles and shapes and silhouettes that are going to add volume to the top so that when somebody sees me from head to toe, I look balanced. And that's it. And then it's not about, like blah, blah, blah. It's not about all the negative stuff. It's about it. This is what I get to wear. And there's some fun styles out there. I get to wear all the cute cropped blazers that I want. I get to wear all of the fluffy sweaters or whatever. Do you know what I mean? But then it's focusing on what I get to wear because of my body shape and all of that. And then, of course, there's just always the what goes on with your lifestyle. Do you know what I mean? And if if your job is very active and heels don't make sense and, like dresses don't make sense and whatever, then we're going to find you like some perfect pants that make you look amazing. And we're going to make sure that you have enough that you feel like you're not wearing the same boring thing every day.
Every day.
Because
Yeah.
boring isn't fun.
No, it's true because it is an opportunity, like I said earlier, to feel playful, to feel creative. And I really like what you said about proportion. And I think that's so important. And to remember that we get to decide for ourselves. I made this sort of like ranty post last year because I know wide leg pants are the thing. And
So much. Yes.
I know, and I am 5'10" and I have like, I am 90% leg. I have just enough torso for some internal organs and then
You squeeze your lungs in there really tight. And then,
yeah, like this is it. It's all I got. And all the rest of it is just like bones, is just my legs. And so when I wear a pair of very wide leg pants, I feel like I am fabric with a head. And it doesn't make me feel my best self. And so, but I was trying to force myself into it.
yes.
And then I put my skinny jeans back on one day and I was like,
Wow.
this is better. I don't look like fabric with a head balancing on top when I wear these.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I want everybody to like just snip out that audio piece right there. It's okay. We can love a trend on other people and be like, you know what? I'm never going to be able to wear like a big boho prairie skirt. Just never going to happen. Like on me, that just doesn't, it's not a great look. Same, like it's okay. I can admire the wide leg pants on every single person at Whole Foods and we'll all be happy. I don't have to take part of it myself. And being able to just like say, hey, listen, I don't want to work that hard. I mean, I could probably make it work if I like really wanted, who cares? One style of pant for one season, move on, go back to your skinny jeans. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like that with high-waisted pants. I see all these little 19-year-old girls in the grocery store. I mean, come on, high-waisted. Like we're like, speaking of rib cages, like they're up
Yes.
to that. I have no butt and high-waisted pants make your butt, even if when you have one, flat and long. Like the last thing this body needs is high-waisted pants. I'm going to appreciate them on everybody else and say, you know what? Mid-rise is the one for me. It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. So thank you. Thank you for giving us some permission to choose, right? to think about proportion, to choose what we know feels good on our bodies. And I will also say with the wide leg pant, when you live in a climate like Canada, skinny jeans were a blessing because you tuck them into your boots. And when you have wide leg pants, you just are trailing a line of salt behind you, water all day.
Right, right. Or trying to smush them all in there. And then again, it goes back to, and that's again, another beautiful thing about our age, right? Is
Yes.
we're just like, how much am I going to work for this? Like, it's too much.
Yeah,
Yes, absolutely.
absolutely.
I think it's hysterical that you asked about wide leg jeans for a while, or wide leg pants. For a while there, it was every one of my clients. There were weeks I would go I was like, oh my God, here, wide leg pant conversation again. Here we go.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when a trend is a trend, sometimes it just takes up so much space in our brains.
Yeah.
And when we think about, so when we have a formula for what works for us,
yes,
when we are able to make decisions that make us feel really good and feel playful and creative, then we can let those things take up less space in our brains. So thank you for that gift today. I really appreciate it.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
All right. Well, Angela, I will make sure that all of your contact information is in the show notes. So listeners, I say this all the time, but we were never meant to do this alone. And at Midlife, more than ever, we need community. We need our people who can share wisdom. None of us are meant to know and be and do all things. So, bring in the people who we know can help us and lead the way in areas that is not maybe our genius. And then you can share your genius with those people too. So it just becomes a really beautiful community. And if there is one piece of advice you would give to a woman when you start working with them, what would that be to leave our listeners with today?
Can I do two?
Yes.
The first one is, and I know we talk about mindset a lot, so it just becomes like this annoying static in the background. Really, when you're going through this process, when you're looking at the mirror, you're getting ready to leave the house, you're like, okay, am I all put together? Fantastic. Please say something kind about yourself, to yourself. I love how I look. My legs look great. My boobs look amazing. That new bra is killing it, or whatever, whatever it is. Say something kind to yourself. And then when you go out into the world, sprinkle authentic compliments like confetti. We look at women who have it all going on and think they get complimented all the time. And the truth of the matter is, we'd probably be shocked if we knew how little other women received compliments. So when you think something nice about a woman, say it out loud. Don't be shy. Say it out loud, spread the love and all of that, and we'll make the world a better place.
Yeah, spread the love. I love that. Thanks so much for being here today.
No, Lisa, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being part of the Transforming 45 community. Your support means the world to us. Stay tuned for more juicy episodes, and remember to keep showing up to your life with the love and magic you deserve. Until next time.